California grows over 70% of the iceberg, leaf, and romaine lettuce produced nationally, and the Salinas Valley, with its highly fertile, deep soils, is a major center for lettuce production. In fact, it is often called the salad bowl of the United States. In this video, you will observe lettuce production in the Salinas Valley, from seeding and transplant production through harvest, and some of the newest technologies that are being used to produce this important crop will be highlighted.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Hecox. I'm the Director of Farm Services here at Tanner Marinano, and what we are checking out here is our plant tape transplanting system. Plant tape is originally founded in the early 2000s. Roughly around 2014, Brian Annell was at a field demonstration day, saw a video of this technology being applied over in Spain. A week later, flew over. A week after that, his father went with him. We ended up purchasing the company. Why this is special and unique to us is conventionally done, a crew like this, transplanting, we would need roughly 15 people. We're covering less than half an acre an hour, and our costs are, $550, $600 an acre in labor. The Salinas Valley in general, there's a diminishing return of labor year after year. The aging of the labor force is getting older, and we're seeing fewer people come back. So what we are able to do with plant tape is do the same job it takes 15 people, and I can do it with 2 people on top of the machine and 1 driver, doing roughly 2 acres an hour. So our productivity is much higher, costs are much less. What we have here from the nursery perspective, we've got essentially a machine gun bandolier of plants. 810 fit in a tray, conventionally 338. So from a nursery perspective, I've more than doubled the output without having to add a single square foot to my nursery. Conventionally transplanted romaine would come off in 35 to 40 days. These plants are 20 days old. So I'm also turning over plants twice as frequently. So it's really a win-win in terms of farm services and our production side. So what's happening up top, right? We've got the workers, and what they're doing is they're taking one tray, they're physically clipping it to the next. So where we end up with a continuous string, so we never have to stop. The only time we stop is when we need to load. The plants feed off the top of the machine, they come down through the trough, and they enter the module. What you have here is a finger that is physically interlaying into the tape and pulling it through, right? There's a knife block down here that swings. As the tape comes through, the knife will swing, it'll pierce the tape, cutting it, separating it into individual little pods. This machine's got a computer on it. It's running an algorithm. So if I want to change spacing, for example, this is 10.5 inch, as we discussed earlier, romaine hearts, 10.5 inches. There's an encoder here that's picking up ground speed. There's an algorithm in this program that will tell me if I'm going this fast to achieve 10.5 inches, I need to spin this hydraulic shaft, which turns the motors at this RPM. So changing spacing is as simple as pushing a button, where in the past you would have to physically jockey gears like you would on a bicycle. We can control planting depth here, pull a pin, one move. I have packer wheels on the back that I can control how far of a push I want to make with the dirt that's covering the actual plant. We average probably 3 miles an hour as we go. The conventional transplanters, maybe 1 mile an hour if we're lucky. One of the challenges here, right, is if the tape is feeding, if it breaks, you now have a gap in your field. And if you're going 6 miles an hour, by the time you can slow your machine down to repair your mistake, you now have to go hand plug 100 plants, which it's a decrease in productivity and something we don't like to see. So I've slowed my guys down 3 miles an hour, fewer breaks, fewer stops, actually ends up being faster in the long run, which is a good thing. We currently have, this is what we call our 80-inch single bed machine. So you need a tractor. The machine itself, its hydraulic components are all fed internally. Doesn't need any extra support. And I've also got a 4-bed machine that's running on a 40-inch bed that's actually self-propelled. And instead of doing hand loading, you can take a whole bin and physically put the bin on top of the machine and carry it with you. So when we do the 80-inch planting configurations, just for productivity's purpose, I put 2 machines together. I have 1 forklift driver who's moving the bins. You know, the nurseries will deliver the bins on a trailer. He has to bring them out here to the field. And then we have 1 either foreman or lead, as we call them, to kind of make sure that everything's running smooth. Ideally, we like to finish before noon. Gives our growers the opportunity to come behind us with the sprinkler pipe, get everything going before the wind picks up in the afternoon. Because if you're out here 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, traditionally Salinas Valley is very windy in the afternoons. You'll see wind pattern in your plants the next day. Mostly organics are all transplanted. The reason being, we don't have as many insecticides, pesticides to combat, herbicides. So the fewer days that we have in the field, the better it is for us, right? So we'll let the first 40 days happen at the nursery, bring them out here. You can see the plants are much larger than the plant tape, and that's just because they're 20 days older. The reason they need to be older is that we actually need a root ball to physically pull. So without the roots, you would just pull the plant out, the plant's gonna die. The plant tape, this isn't a problem because we're physically cutting the paper, we never have to handle the root ball. Right? So 1.5 inches versus probably a 4-inch plant here.
How long did the plant tape remain when you plant?
So we shoot for 19 to 21 days.
And then these are?
These are 35.
35.
Yep. And then you'll notice right on the last machine, we only had 2 employees up top. We had 1 driver. Where here, we need 1 employee per line that's physically pulling the plants out, dropping them into the carousel. The carousel kicks it out on the ground. And then we'll also have a couple employees walking behind to correct, as you can see, what didn't go on the ground properly and or was just a miss. Yeah, so all that's happening here is as we're going, the chain is propelling a shaft off the ground drive, circulating the cone. As the cone spins, it'll physically open the trap door, drop it in. There's a kicker down below that's punting it out into the ground. So these are some of the harder jobs, skill-wise, to train and to teach. It takes about a month to get somebody that really knows what they're doing here. And what they'll do after every turn, the people that are currently following the machine, they'll get on top, they'll throw, somebody else will walk, kind of rinse and repeat. But as you can see, compared to the plant tape, it's a much slower process. Right now they're probably going about a mile, 1.2.
Be putting down drip tape on these as well?
Yeah, they'll set the field with sprinklers first, and then they'll eventually come in with drip.
And the same thing after the first cultivation?
Yep.
Do you recycle your drip tape?
It's actually reusable. We'll run it for about 4 years and then send it off to a recycling plant. Okay. We've played around with some single-use tape, but the economics of it doesn't really make sense.
Now, do you have to clean the tape, or do they take it dirty right from the field?
They'll lift it right out of the field, roll it up, put it right back onto the rolls. They'll patch it, repair it, and then once you have a stack of rolls, you'll send it off to the next field.
But I meant when you're recycling it.
No, we just reel it up and set it on the side of the field, and the truck comes with a big boom arm and picks it up and hauls it away. So the general makeup of the plant tape, it's a 3-part material. We've got a top layer, a middle, and we've also got the bottom, which has a copper infused into the paper. The reason we have copper is it acts as a biocide to prevent the roots from growing out the sidewalls, because if the roots grew out the sidewalls, what it would do is it would start to physically interlink this entire tray, and as we fed it through the machine, it'll want to pull up as a whole unit rather than run like a bandolier. So what you have here is over at the factory, they are manufacturing the material inside. They are laying it into the bottom layer, putting a top layer. This cutout you see here is a dibble. So as the plate seeder comes, it's going to drop the seed into the hole, progresses down the seed line to where this top layer is a heat activated product. Heat is applied, glues in, and you're left with finished product. It is then cut into strips of 21, zigzagged into the trays, 810 plants per tray. As you can see, we've got some broccoli here with a little mildew damage, but fortunately it's only on the cotyledon, so it'll drop and fall.
Supplemental LED lighting is used on overcast days to promote quick seedling growth. This keeps production and transplanting on schedule and ensures that healthy transplants will be brought to each field. Each tray is marked with a label which indicates the day the tray was seeded, the plant type and variety, where the tray was seeded, the number of trays in the lot, and the intended ship date.
So we start out with this, power mulch it into this after it's been listed, so we don't even run the Lewiston on it, and have a nice surface to plant into.
And you don't do a pre-irrigation and you just sub it up with the drip tape?
Yeah, so you just got to jump on the previous crop that was here. This will be the second crop of the season. So you just got to make sure you jump on the harvest after harvest is done. Get on that field right away, and you can do most of your bed work without having to irrigate.
But this field looks like you're going to sprinkle it up, though.
Yeah, if there's no tape buried, we'll sprinkle. Yeah. But they're not setting pipe yet. 8-line artisan romaine, stand hay planter, folded wing. We have pelleted seed. We're running it on belts. Pretty kind of run-of-the-mill. This program, for thinning purposes, we go every other. So we're planting at about 4 inches for an 8-inch spacing. Come back in here and we'll either get thinned with the machine that you just saw, or we'll do it by hand. Pelleted artisan romaine seed. 80-inch bed, everything is done in 3s, and then if we were on a 40-inch bed, we would be doing it in 4s. So a little more efficient on the 80s as you're picking up an extra bed. So this is a 6-line romaine heart field that was actually germinated using drip tape. So prior to us coming in and planting the field, the grower, who's an in-house grower here, TNA, they will actually come in and they'll physically inject the tape roughly about 4 inches under the ground. Connected to the main line. We will then come back in, plant, and he'll actually germinate this field. This field will never see sprinklers, so really good at mitigating runoff, and we've actually found pretty good success with it. So, in lieu of doing this by hand with a crew of people, the machine comes in, and it's got a vision technology on it where it's physically tracking the seed line. You type into the program what I want my finished spacing to be, and then what it's doing is it's running an algorithm of kill and keep. So what it's doing is the band turns on with the fertilizer to pass over the plants that you don't want, and then it turns back off to keep the plant that you want. So ultimate goal here is this is our artisan lettuce, you're gonna want 8 inches. So what he's doing is he's keeping, and then you can see the darker area that's been outlined. Plant has been sprayed with fertilizer. That plant, you come back this afternoon, will be dead. The next one, totally fine. These programs, what you have to do is you have to adjust your direct seed planting to accommodate for these auto thinnings. Depending on what your target spacing is for 8 inches, you'd probably want to seed every 2. So you're going to kill and keep.
The auto thinner employs strobe lights to illuminate the crop plants. As the thinner moves through the field, sensors detect the reflected light from the crop plants. The onboard computer keeps track of the number of plants and the distance traveled, and is therefore able to spray the plants that are not wanted.
Ideal spacing 7.5 inches, max 7.8. Do it 3 beds, 8 seed lines. And then it'll spit the report out at the end, kind of giving you an idea of what your finished product should be. It'll tell you what your target was, what your average is. So what we've got here, this machine is called the Robovator. It's a piece of Dutch technology that we brought over a couple years ago. I think at this point we've got north of 2,500 hours on the machine. And essentially what this machine's doing is it's using infrared camera technology to weed fields. What the operators here are doing is they are setting in the computer, and it's all done via cell phone, a pixelated size, and what they're telling the machine to do is keep whatever's larger than the pixelated size that you determine. When it sees a keep based on size, it's going to physically open the knives. As it passes through, it's going to close. So what the machine's doing is just opening and closing draw knives throughout the day. This bar floats on an eco den, so even though we're running on 2s and conventionally planted, you plant on 4s, the machine can track the seed line to ensure that you're directly over the plants at all times and not taking them out. It's got great potential. Like we were talking, just the European model, right? They do 3 acres a day. We need to do 30. So we're trying to find that good balance between something that successfully works and is sustainable, right? We spend a lot of time, I think every 2 weeks we have to break it down, kind of go through it just to keep it up, keep it running. But what this is doing is it's taking a 35-person crew, knocking it down to just really one operator, and we're able to cover about 10 acres a day. So to cover my needs, I would need 10 to 15 of these machines to replace the hand crews that I have. But this is a start, and we're kind of building upon it from here, and we'll see where the future goes. But works really well with transplants because your plant-to-plant spacing is identical. Everything is, let's say 10 inches for head lettuce. So you can be more precise with the knife action and setting the delay, the start and the stop on how the knives open and close. So you've got a halogen light that's lighting up the path for the camera to determine where the plants are. And then Luis here, he just sets on his phone what the pixelated size is that we need to keep. This is actually probably a little bigger than what we would normally come into, but it works. Once the lettuce physically touches and there's no distinction between one plant to the next, we can no longer use this machine. Yeah, so he's breaking bottoms, he's cultivating. There's some growers in the valley that are talking about adding fertilizer tanks to the front and doing your first side dress at the same time. So you're taking multiple tractor passes and then people passes and knocking it down. Yeah, so as you can see, where we came from the Robovator and the auto thinning machine, this is the culturally the historic practices that we do out here. In this field right now, we currently have 3 crews. Each crew runs anywhere from 18 to 20 people, and then depending on the weed spectrum and how thick it is kind of what regulates the cost here. Because this is organic and the inability to use herbicide, you can obviously see what the end result is. Unlike harvest, where you operate mostly off a group piece incentive, to where the more boxes you cut per hour, the higher probability you're going to go above minimum wage, right? This crew, we can't put a piece on it, so we have just a flat base rate, which is still higher than the minimum, but you'll never go above that rate, right? Where in harvest, some of our crews, they regularly top out over $20 an hour, and just the sheer volume of people needed to do this work. So you can see on the 8-line stuff, they're only taking 2 lines at a time. So if one person was to cover one bed, you would have to go back and forth 4 times to get this job done.
So they're thinning and weeding at the same time.
Yep, which is a function that thinning machine doesn't do because it's only focused on the line. Yeah. So then when they come back to do the first cleaning, usually on the machine thinned fields, there's going to be a higher percentage of weeds.
Hi, my name is Brett Champlin. I'm the director of iceberg lettuce harvest here at Tanimur and Anil. And we're going to look at some romaine and iceberg harvest today. The romaine heart crews are 20 to 26 people. As you can see, we have 3 crews in this field. At any one time, Tanimur and Anil has 14 romaine heart crews open. As a company, about 50 harvest crews total, 50, 55. The romaine hearts are currently our biggest single commodity, coupled with the romaine fresh and our artisan romaine, which is also another romaine product. We do about 200,000 boxes of romaine products a week. Iceberg would be our second biggest, and that's about 160,000 boxes a week. For up until very recently, iceberg was our biggest single commodity, but as kind of the consumer preference has shifted away from iceberg and more into romaine products, we've seen that reflected in our total field, acres planted and harvested volumes as well.
How many rows are you harvesting continuously right now?
So each cutter, you can see these beds have 6 lines on them, and then each cutter is responsible for a bed, right? So if you count the cutters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he's covering 10 beds, so 60 lines each machine.
Each machine?
Each machine.
And each machine has 10 cutters then? And you have 3 machines out here?
Correct.
So we're doing 180 lines right now?
Yes. Yes.
how many cartons will you be harvesting today, do you think?
So each machine should harvest somewhere around call it 2,500 to 3,000 boxes a day, working an 8-hour day.
And so this is an 8-hour day crew?
Yes. All of our crews work roughly 8 hours a day, depending on the size of fields and stuff. If we have 1 or 2 beds remaining to finish the field, we'll finish the field kind of for efficiency's sake. But we kind of shoot for that 8-hour mark. Too much more than that, you just don't, the labor isn't there, the quality and the efficiency isn't there past 8 hours. And then the bigger thing is that most people want to work a 7 to 8 hour day. So we really focused on that over the last couple of years. So you can see he's cutting the product and then stripping the outer leaves off, right, to get it down to like a marketable size. And then she puts it in that shotgun, and then she puts it in that sealer, right?
Lettuce is often harvested and packed in bulk for food service. Here, iceberg lettuce is being harvested, trimmed, and bulk packed into polyethylene bags, with 6 heads being placed in each bag. Once the bag is full, it is twisted and closed with a twist tie before being placed into a shipping box. The box may contain 1 or 2 layers of bagged lettuce.
So this truck right here with a squeeze on it is going to hook up to the harvest machine there, and then we have chains, we have basically a conveyor belt that's going to transfer all the completed pallets of product that's ready to be cooled and shipped onto the truck, and that way we can transfer it easily onto the big trailers over there, which we take to the cooler.
Lettuce is one of the most important vegetable crops grown in the U.S., and the majority of lettuce is grown in California. The production of high-quality lettuce requires many steps, from careful land preparation to equally careful hand harvesting. Innovations in production and the development of automated equipment such as auto transplanters, thinners, and weeders are keeping production costs down for this valuable crop and are ensuring that California growers will be able to grow this crop for many years to come.